Hello guys, it's me, Gabrielle. So, I've been playing this game called Eve. I-B. Not A, but Z. God, it's not that hard to say. And, I'm playing it now. I've watched a lot of people play it, so, yeah. Because I know what's happening. It's creepy. So anyway, I'm going to read a fan fiction on Wattpad that I just kind of searched up now. I have not read it before, so, yeah. I do not own this story. It's called Our Rose, an Eve fan fiction. It'll be in third person, and it's by Mega underscore thingy M. So yeah, I have no rights to any of this story whatsoever. I'm just reading it. So here it goes. Don't know what's gonna come out of this though. Eve walked along the hills. This Gertina artist now had a whole gallery filled with his works. Eve looks down to her younger sister Ellie. Her younger sister has vivid gold eyes and long black hair. Eve smiles at Ellie and ties back her long brown hair, her red eyes darting nervously. She gets a bad vibe from this place. Eve, I want to see that one! The one with the sleeping man! Ellie yelled impatiently, and Eve nodded. She hadn't seen this painting in 9 years since she visited the other gallery as a child. Even now, it seems so familiar. He is so captivating and sad, Eve trailed off, and Ellie ran to one of a lady wearing a red dress, and her eyes glowed a fierce red. Eve grabbed her younger sister's hand, frightened slightly. Don't go near that, she might attack you, Eve warned. And Ellie laughed, wriggling away and running to her parents. Eve, dear, it has been some time. Her mother trailed off, a small glimmer of fear in her eyes that was hardly detectable. They all fell silent among the chattering art lovers. Eve, we will go ahead to the sculptures, okay? Her father broke the silence, and Eve nodded, not uttering a word. Then they were gone. Eve turned back to the forgotten portrait and stared at it. The man inside the frame looked so familiar, and the rose he held now seemed larger than it was 9 years ago. Eve! She heard a voice call out her name, but it wasn't her family. She gasped when the lights switched off and suddenly then came on again, and no one was around. Eve! There it was again, that familiar voice. Hello, who is it? She called out in an attempt to find out who was behind this. Gary. I am Gary. The voice grew soft, and she sensed no anger from it, or anything. If anything, she was relaxed. Turn around. She listened to the voice and span around. The boy from the portrait smiled and opened his violet eyes. His hair rustled and Eve was frozen. She couldn't think. Do you remember me? She thought hard. Those purple eyes and hair seemed so familiar, and like he was important, even though her thinking wasn't over. She shook her head out of fear. I am sorry, I couldn't come running to help you. The portrait man, or Gary, spoke again. He was sorrowfully and pulled out a red rose. Would you join me again to save me? He asked. It was much hope that it made Eve's heart beat faster for unknown reason. Gary? Eve trailed off, and a bright smile lit up his face. Suddenly suppressed memories and forgotten ones flooded back. She remembered finding a man in a crazy gallery when she was just 9. This was Gary. She thought he had died, just slept while she burned Mary's portrait. Gary, how? Gary laughed and smiled even more. Tears cried by those who felt my art revive my rose. I am still alive in here, but I can only move in this world. I never found my way out, so I am trapped. Eve touched his portrait, and her hand went through it. She retracted in shock, and Gary put his hand out. Go to where it began. I will be waiting. Eve nodded and turned from him, walking alone through the art gallery until she came across Abyss of the Deep, which was how she got through there. Granted, it was trapped by poles and ribbed rope, but she climbed easily over that and stepped in. Eve felt her world melt around her as she fell through the painting and landed hard on a blue floor. Everything seemed the same as the first time, except Gary stood in front of her with her rose and his. Eve leapt at him and hugged him. It's been too long, she whispered in his ear while they hugged. She had to tear herself away while she smiled at him. You haven't even aged, Eve exclaimed, seeming it had been 9 years. You have, though, he murmured, facing away his red cheeks and holding up her rose with shaky hands. Being here stopped my aging process. Even when I get out, I seem I wouldn't have aged. Eve nodded and took the rose with the shaky hand. She couldn't believe it was really Gary, but something was different. Something she felt towards Gary. Eve tried to suppress it and looked at him with innocent eyes. Ready for another adventure? That was one chapter. I'm sorry, my voice was horrible during that. Although I cosplay Gary, that's kind of weird. It's my Gary coat too. So yeah, that was interesting. Yeah. I don't really know what to say. Bro fists or props, whatever. If you're not a bro, props then. I don't like you though, if you're not a bro. Kidding. To whoever made that story, Mega, something, whatever, M. So yeah, that's it. Goodbye.